Take it away, guys.
Right. Okay. I will let Leona and Trinity introduce themselves, and then how about that? We'll get started. Leona, you want to go
Good.
first?
Sure. My name is Leona Caldemeyer, and I work for the University of Texas at Tyler School of Medicine for the Rural Family Medicine Residency and the Nephrology Fellowship. And I have been in GME a little bit over 4 years.
And my name is Trinity Turner, and I am the Residency Program Manager at Central Washington Family Medicine Residency in Yakima, Washington. And I've been in GME for about 3.5 years now.
And I'm Melissa Keller. I'm the Executive Director of GME at Prisma Health in Columbia and Greenville, South Carolina. And I've been in GME for, 15 years now, quite a while. All right, we're going to get started. I believe, Leona, you're up first, correct?
I think it's all of us, isn't it?
Let's see. Yeah, so here's our agenda for the day. And who's doing what?
And I guess we can each just do a slide. Do a little section. I guess I'll go for it first. So our time management techniques that we're going to be talking about is the first one is our dedicated email time, making sure that you're setting specific times to check and respond to your emails. And then just doing this, it prevents that constant interruption and actually allows you to focus on your work so that you're not just constantly being interrupted by an email. So just make sure you set a designated time.
I actually have time blocked on my calendar that is literally blocked for email and meeting prep and things like that every day so that I can focus on email. So I use like that focus time through Microsoft Office to do that. And then batch processing, group tasks together and tackle them one go. This can significantly reduce the email and time spent on email. So I will give an example. With my family medicine program, we had a Sunday email that went out to all the residents, and it was from faculty, myself, and our chief residents. It was the one email a week that we wanted them to read. So we put a lot of the stuff in there. So example, right now is flu season, flu shot reminders. So that would go in there, and the process for doing that. That way they knew that that had all the important information in it. They also knew that if they got an email from me during the week, it was very important because I didn't normally email outside of that big Sunday email. So they knew that if they got something during the week, they needed to read that.
Yeah, and then another great thing for this too is quick response rules. So if it really is just a quick yes, so like my little rule is like if it's less than 2 sentences and I'm able to, I try to respond as soon as I get it. And this can really just help with preventing that 100 emails to deal with at the end of the week. So, and also consider just sending an instant message if it's really that short of an email, then maybe don't respond, then just instant message them if you have that at your organization.
Okay, organization and prioritization. This is Leona.
That's me. Okay, so in this, what the kind of examples that I'm going to show you today are just utilizing your folders and labels by organizing your email and your inboxes so that you can categorize it based on different topics, projects, and senders. And I'll show you an example of that, as well as just the way that I kind of prioritize those tasks and color code them. And I'm not really going to show you the filters part, but I believe Melissa is going to show you more on like the filtering. So I believe I'm going to share my screen.
Let me stop sharing.
Okay, and I'm going to go to my email and I'm just going to give you a quick example. So here we go. Can you see my email? Okay, so what I've done is over here to the left, let me kind of close some of this up a little bit, but I go ahead and I have all of these different folders, and when you open a folder, let's say like different committees, and I make it very detail oriented. So like if I have the committees, I'll put them in there. And then sometimes I'll even go and make it even more, and like even like different administrators. So like for here, I'll actually put like where they're at, what their name is. I'll actually also put like what topics that they've provided so that I can actually access that stuff quicker instead of just putting it into like a, general folder. Let's see. Also, let's go like email templates, things that I would need to have kind of readily available, like I'll have that in there. And I do it in the same format so that when I'm going to find it, like it's directly in there and I can pull it up very easily. Let's see. And it kind of has the same sense all the way down, like interview recruitment season. Let's say here, scheduled interviews, December 13th, applicants, faculty. I kind of make it very, very detail oriented. So I just don't want to search the same way as for like all the different organizations that we have to deal with on a daily basis. So I have this thing called like membership organizations, and I name them out like this, like look at how many that we deal with. And so like, let's just give an example of like ACGME. ACGME sends us a ton of things. And so I'll be like, okay, well, ACGME e-communications, go in there. There's all the e-communications, that some of them they'll filter out and leave like after 6 months or whatever. And then that's found in a different folder down below, but different webinars and such. And so this is just kind of like what I've adapted, even like AAFP, you have all these things from AAFP, and so that's kind of what I do, just to make it better. I even do the same thing with like our PGY1 process or like our PGY2 process. So like, when you're having onboarding, you're going to have an academic year setup. And these are all the things that go with academic year setup. You're going to have, different types of access, building or electronic. And then that kind of goes, you're going to have, let's see, where's the other one? Like different documents for residents that they need. Also, I do the same thing for my residents in their training, like where is it? Sorry, rural FM. And so I do them by classes. And so like, let's say my 2025 class, and I also designate it by like what they are, MD, DO, what have you. And then like all of the correspondence that I've had with that resident will go in there so that I can find it. You don't have to be that detail oriented. I just have always done that. And the same with my fellowship, it's a new fellowship. And so, but I do it by classes, do it by designation, and so on and so forth. And so that's kind of one way that I kind of organize. And then anything that's like left in my inbox, I haven't sorted through it right now, but anything that's going to be left in there, that's something that's a priority, or I need to go ahead and file it away. Also, what I do with like my calendar, let's see, is it's very color coordinated. Let me minus that. And so different types of things, I put out reminders. And when you go in here, let me go back to this. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. But like, let's say I was going to go set up a meeting, or like, let me see, I would want to change this meeting. Let me just open this. I have all these categories, and I'm sure most of you know how to do that. And so I kind of color coordinate it that way, as well as usually I'll put a reminder, and then also like, what's the designation of that, just to kind of keep everything organized, visually pleasing, on top of the things that I need to do, and so on and so forth. That's really all I was going to show you here. And then the other thing that I do that's very much part of my organization is I try to alleviate as many emails to my residents as possible. And so I have an announcements tab built into my Teams. And so on that Teams page, maybe I can just share really quick and maybe show you just as a quick example. Let me go to my Teams. Actually, let me just share my screen. Go to my Teams. Okay, so like for instance, let me go into my residents team. There's an announcements tab. And so anything that they may need to be able to access, that's like flu, stipends, holiday schedule, codes, all the things, anything that they would want to refer back to, I usually try to put it in this announcements tab so that it alleviates the buildup within their email. And they seem to really enjoy it a lot, and they like it. And so that's also something that maybe you could implement within your organization to kind of help with that. So that's really all I have for my mail organization.
Let me share my screen again. Hold on.
I love your background.
There we go. Okay. All right. All right. So effective communication. Trinity.
Hi, everyone. All right, I'm going to be going over some effective communication tools. I think many of us have been in administrative roles long enough to know that you've seen a good email and you've seen a bad email, and we're guilty of sending bad emails all the time, and we're often really good at also sending great emails. These are just some tips and tricks that I picked up over time. And I will admit, in putting these slides together, I got reminded of some things that I hadn't been doing. So that was a little bit humbling, and I've reminded myself to do those again. So, three main things we're going to discuss are short, direct, effective subject lines, clear, concise, and action-oriented messages in the body of our emails, and then a quick thing on email signatures. Oh, next slide, please. Okay, subject lines. They should be short. Ideally, 5 to 7 words max is a good rule. They should tell your recipient quickly and clearly why you're emailing them in the first place. And before you send it, determine if it is an actionable or an informative email, because that will determine what goes in the subject line. If it's neither of these things, probably best not to send the email. Probably could be a Teams or something, or just don't need to tell them. And also, do not put the body of your email in the subject line. These are some emails that I've actually seen in recent time from our organization. They've been de-identified to protect the innocent. It is not helpful for people to do that. I have been guilty of doing this once or twice in my life too, but then I saw other people do it and I was like, nope, that's not the way to do it. So like I said, 5 to 7 words max is a great way to make sure that people don't get confused about why you're sending them. Next slide. Another thing that we have implemented at our program, which we're still working on getting everybody on board with, is that we have created agreed upon subject line rules or categories so that people can quickly tell if it's an urgent or a non-urgent message. So our categories that we came up with were urgent, which also should be tagged as high importance in Outlook. And these are things that must be done in 1 to 2 days. So for example, NRP registration deadlines tomorrow. Action is a reply or something needs to be done, but not urgent. So action does not mean 1 to 2 days. And action also does not mean that you should just read the email. That is not an action. Action means something specific, like register for the NRP class by 5 p.m. on December 26th. And then we have a need to know category. This is important information that you should read, but that does not necessarily require a response. So for example, the flu vaccine clinic moved today and you have to get your flu vaccine that day. And then our final category is review or FYI. These are helpful information, or this is helpful information, but does not require a response and is not necessarily required reading. So those are what we have used. Feel free to steal them if you would like to, but we have found that helpful. Next slide. All right, this one's my favorite because I realized I had been really guilty of not doing some of these recently due to the busyness of the season. Bodies of an email should be clear, direct, and easy to understand. And while they are professional communication, they are not a traditional letter, and I don't think they should be treated as such either. So when you write an email, keep it short. Ideally, there's this, I can't remember, there's this organizational professional who says that all emails should be no more than 7 sentences long. That's an aspirational thing to get to. I have not made it there yet. But as short as possible, put your main point on the top, or what they call bluff, which is your bottom line up front, so that people know why you're emailing them. And this goes hand in hand with avoiding extraneous content not related to your main point. And I would say this is something that I'm getting better at over time. I know sometimes we want to be polite, or we don't want to offend people, or we want to soften the blow if it's a hard email, but like it's not necessary. I've gotten better personally about not putting, hello, I hope this email finds you well and that the kids are good and the cat, like it's nice, but like none of us have time for that, and we deserve to not have to spend all that time typing up the email too, because our time is also important, not just the time of the person that is receiving our email. Another one is specifically name who needs to act or do the task and put clear due dates. Instead of, hey team, can you do this by 5 p.m. sometime at the end of the week? But that's an obviously extreme example. Do Jane and John, this needs to be done by 5 p.m. this Friday. So just being really clear about that. And this is especially important if you're sending an email that has multiple recipients, some of which may only be on there for an FYI versus an actual thing they have to do. This happens a lot for me because my team will CC me a lot on stuff. So I appreciate if they are very specific about whether or not it's something I need to do, or they're just sending it to me so that I know about it. Another thing that I find helpful for this, with specifically naming who needs to act or do something, is to use the tag feature in Outlook so that it's very specific who you're asking to do what. So I really appreciate that. And finally, format your message for readability. This goes back to the fact that emails are professional communication, but they're not super formal communication. So avoid big blocks of text, break up the lines. I use this all the time personally because I can't stand it when I get an email that's like 15 sentences of nothing but like size 11 font. I can't read that. Use bullet points for lists or instructions or just to emphasize certain things. Bold, highlight, or indent certain important points to draw attention to them, but do not overuse this because if everything is bolded or highlighted, then nothing is important. So only use it if you're truly emphasizing something. If it's relevant, include the direct link to something for convenience. I love this personally. Instead of sending me a sentence that says, go look at this thing, just send me the link. I'll click on it. And then also avoid excessive capitalization or punctuation because it's honestly just distracting. And you don't, sometimes it's okay if someone sent an announcement about someone getting a big award and you're really excited, that's fine. But as a general rule, you don't need 3 exclamation points. 1 is fine. And half the time you probably don't even need the exclamation point, to be honest. So just think twice about it before you send it out. And then also avoid long readings or sign-offs. And this goes back to the mantra of keeping it as short as possible. Next slide. All right. This one, for a minute waffled about us including it, but I do think it is important. And I will caveat this with the fact that some institutions do have policies and requirements for email signatures. So for some folks, this is a moot point because theirs is just set in stone no matter what, and they can't even change it themselves. But email signatures, I think you should always have one. I think not having one is worse than having one that might be a little bit extraneous, because I can't tell you how many times I've received an email from someone and knowing what their role was very important, but I didn't know, and I'm over there Googling them, trying to figure out who they actually are. So include one, at least on the first email in the chain that you might be sending. They should always include your name, role, place of work, maybe a logo if you have one that you can use, and then relevant contact information. It's best to avoid things like custom fonts or distracting text colors, because once again, it just takes away from the main point of your message, which is what we're trying to convey. It's just something that we need to have done to make our lives easier or meet a goal. Don't make the font size too small or excessively large. Personally, I find it's best to avoid excessive links to social media or websites. Most of those things can be looked at by people. And then information not relevant to your work. And then things like extra GIFs, clip art, photos, or quotes. I'm not saying we can't have these in here. I just think it can be a little bit distracting for folks and can take up a lot of space when they're trying to find, like, for example, in a thread, they're trying to find the relevant message. And so it can make it harder for them to get to the main point of the email. So those are my recommendations. And I'm now going to pass it off to Melissa, who is going to talk about email tools and features.
All righty. Okay, so one of my favorite things is using the email scheduling. I think this is a different one than I had it. And using the email filters. So I use the email filters quite a bit in that I have filters set up, for example, the AFMA listserv, which if any of you have had that filter set up, for some reason, something changed and that it went away for a little bit and I had to go back and reset it. Yeah. But I have one that automatically goes to an AFMA listserv folder. I don't even see it. It's over there. And then when I have time, say I'm sitting on a listen only phone call or whatever, I'll flip through and see if there's anything I need to look for. I'll tell a great story of how I used it with my former PD. He had a program administrator that would send out all kinds of emails without him included on it, and he would get blindsided. So when I started, he wanted me to put him on every single email I sent. And I was fine with that. And then he wasn't answering me. But it's because I was sending so many emails, and we came up with this system where I did it for him. I did a filter, and I put, if it was a CC from me, it went to a folder called CC Melissa. And then he could just read it at his leisure. It was just an FYI. He didn't have to touch it. He only had to touch it if a resident asked him a question about it. He could go in there and look for it. Then if I put him in the to line, it went directly to his inbox and he knew he needed to read it. It was actionable. He needed something to do with it. So you can not only do it for yourself, but you can set up filters for other people, like your program director, if you want to have some sort of system like that. The other filters I use a lot are IT department. I don't know about you, but we get all kinds of Epic downtime, phone system downtime, all those emails. I really don't need to read them anymore. So they go to their own little folder as well. And that way, then if somebody calls me and says, hey, the phones aren't working, I can go over there and go, oh yeah, you should have gotten an email from the IT department that there's downtime on the phones right now. The other thing you can do that's really nice is automatic reply filter. So you can create that rule and have, like, during application season, when you're getting those people who are like reaching out to find out the status of their application, you could use certain keywords that you see, maybe application or status, and have an automatic reply that just says, thank you for your interest. All applications are reviewed through Eris. You will hear from us by, and put your date of what your reply will be. And I'm just going to show you a quick slide of the rule. So this is my example of the rule for the AFMA serve and how it goes through. So any email that comes from this email address goes to the AFMA folder. So you can do all kinds of things like that. You can change the rule. You can run rules now. You can delete it. You can copy it and create a new rule from it, which is really nice because then you don't have to start from scratch and change like who it's from. So I would highly encourage adding rules. The nice thing about it is if you have all these great folders like Leona does, they just automatically go to those folders and you can read them as you need to. The only thing is you have to make sure you keep track and open them up to see, if you have new emails in them. That's the only thing I would highly recommend. I used to have one, my residents knew that they had to put on the subject line for vacation, it was vacation request. And I had a vacation request folder and I had a rule that it went to vacation request. And I worked on those on Fridays and they knew that. So they knew that on Friday, Melissa would go to her vacation request folder. She would reply and let you know if everything was good. So just think about doing things like that. And I'll give you some sample rules you can use. Like I said, move emails to folders, send automatic replies. You can also automatically flag emails for follow-up with a rule. So if you could put a rule in for the in-training exam, and you could have a rule that says any email with in-training exam flag for follow-up, just, so when you get that email from the ABFM, to follow up on it. You can auto forward email. So this one's really good if you have someone new in your department that, for example, you got a program assistant in your program and they are handling vacations or they are handling reimbursements. You can do anything that says reimbursement request automatically forwards to this new person. So that's a great one. And then you can play a sound. That's a fun one. Maybe if it's from your PD, it could go womp womp or something like that. No, I'm kidding. Ding dong. But you can make it play a sound when it comes from a certain person, or you can add an importance level also when it comes from a certain person. So if it comes from, your executive director, it should be like angels singing and things like that. And then the other thing we're going to talk about is creating templates. As you saw, Leona had some great templates, and I am really big on templates. I feel like you can save yourself a lot of time. And I did let PowerPoint pick this, and I just thought it was great that it did the devil for the other, and I didn't change it. But, you could do like those duty hour reminders. You can have a template for that. You can have rotational reminders for each rotation. So say that your resident's going on derm and they're supposed to contact that, preceptor 1 week before to set up a meeting with them, or they're supposed to contact the HR department if they're going to an offsite rotation. You can have that template already ready to go, fill in the name, fill in the date, and off you go. I had incoming resident information templates that I sent every week as things went through orientation and getting them ready. It's all ready to go. I just changed the dates each season. Same thing with recruitment season, reminders about socials or reminders about, as you can use it in Thalamus, but you can do your own. And then deadlines. I had like certain deadlines that I would send my faculty that I just had email templates, for example, end of rotations coming up, deadlines for evaluations will be XYZ. But use those templates in any way you can. If you're sending them to an offsite rotation and you're sending an email to that rotation, have that template ready to go. Hello, Dr. So-and-so, you will be having resident ABC on Monday, starting Monday, January 1st, and they will be with you for 4 weeks. They have vacation scheduled, and then you could put, if they have it, or put an NA, just create those templates to make your life easier. And the other thing I love to do is schedule emails. As a matter of fact, I worked a lot this weekend. As Leona can tell you, I was catching up from some business I had last week. And on Saturday afternoon, I sent my team, I had, I think, 8 emails to go out this morning. And I scheduled them so that they went out at 7:30, 8 o'clock this morning to my team. Because one, I don't like them to feel like they have to check their emails on the weekend or reply. And two, I just feel like keeping it during business hours when I absolutely can is very important, because I try to talk to my team about setting boundaries, and that's one of them. So I made all my emails, I got them ready to go. I hit this where I did delay delivery and sent them out this morning. They went out this morning and I got replies, right away. You can also do deliver before. You can do have replies sent to. So if you have something you send out and you need them to RSVP to someone else, you can have the replies sent to that other person. So use this. This is under your options. You can do the sensitivity, you can do security, you can do voting buttons, which is really fun. We've done that before when, you're looking for a certain time for a meeting, does this time work or this time work? Yes or no. We've used it before for a quick GMEC vote that we needed that was outside a GMEC meeting. We've done this kind of thing before. All right.
Hey, Melissa, it looks like Leona wanted to chime in on templates.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say another way that I know that our organization or my programs have implemented like the templates for like rotations coming up is we actually created a curriculum within New Innovations that has, so when they get their curriculum, they also get like the rotation curriculum, but they also get like a general like objectives and contact information or whatever. And so in that curriculum that we have built, it actually has like a little example of an email that they can send out to the rotation that's upcoming. And then on that curriculum as well, that has like the emails, the phone numbers, and like the addresses and all of that of whomever. And it's of every rotation. It's not just individualized on your normal curriculum, if that makes any sense. So it's really helped out a lot on them being able to kind of have that mindset of being professional before their rotations. So that might be an idea as well.
All right. And then our last part is just some takeaways, and then we're going to all talk and share ideas after this, because I know many of you use different tips and tricks on how to manage things. So who wants to take it? Leona? Trinity?
Oh, I'm happy to do Go ahead, Leona, take it away.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Well, one of the things that we just wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that you had some just final tips. So the first one is just making sure that you're avoiding like your email overload. So if you do implement some of the tips and tricks that you've seen in our webinar today, you will definitely be able to tackle a lot of the unnecessary emails that you're going to send that are going to be in your inbox, as well as anything that you're going to need to send out as well. Of course, use email only for the important matters. And so that when I had showed you like the option that you could place within Teams or whatever you utilize to correspond with your faculty members and your residents. If you implement something like the announcements tab in there, that's definitely going to alleviate a lot of those unnecessary emails. And you're going to be able to also provide very important communication that they can get and refer back to very quickly without even it being on their phones as well. Another tip is to proofread. There's also a function within our emails that has proofreading, I believe. I can't recall exactly where it's at, but it does proofread your emails prior to you. And sometimes people also use like an AI strategy as well to kind of like proofread their emails, make it more professional, maybe check the tone of the email And also just be very considerate of like your etiquette on emails. Like be mindful of your exclamation points, be mindful of the tone, be like if you are frustrated or feeling overwhelmed, just kind of maybe take a walk after you write the email instead of sending it out immediately so that you can avoid any damage that it could cause and it's irreparable. You know what I mean? And so sometimes if you just kind of take a walk, reread the email 2 or 3 times, maybe send it to a confident person, a confidant that can also maybe proofread it as well. That might be helpful so that you can avoid anything damaging in your career. So those are some of the like final takeaways that we would want you to have.
And think about reply all. Does everybody need to know? I love the emails where someone asks a question and they specifically say, reply directly to me, but then inevitably somebody replies all. And you get
Every
20
time.
emails saying,
Right.
I'll be there, I'm in, I got it. So, make sure you're mindful about the reply all. Just because it does get a little, your email can go from 0 to 20 unread emails really fast when people reply all.
Also, utilize the little button up top, like the heart, the thumbs up,
the reactions.
Yeah, the reactions.
That eliminates a lot of the got it, thank you, the thumbs up, the heart. I appreciate that because, I appreciate people thanking me, but I don't need 20 emails with people thanking me.
I would say along with that too, like at least for me, I mercilessly delete things. Because we all sometimes I think, and it doesn't mean that we as administrators don't save a lot of stuff, but when it comes to things like our clinic nursing schedule, I can tell you right now, I have literally never looked at that thing, and I will never look at it ever in the future because it's not my job, and I would mess it up if I like tried to do it for them, right? I delete those. I'm never gonna look at them. It's just so I would say, and honestly, sometimes it's kind of satisfying for me to delete things that I don't have to actually deal with because there's so little in our inboxes that we don't have to. So when I get to delete something, it's like a little bit of satisfaction. So I mean, like Leona said, like consider like how long do you actually need to keep something? Because very rarely is it something that you actually for most things, unless it's communication directly related to like resident rotations or residents in difficulty, like you don't need to keep those things. So feel free to delete. It's very satisfying. It's almost stress relieving for me in a way.
And as more and more institutions are changing their retention policy, ours went from forever to 1 year to 4 months now. We just went to 4 months in July. Think about using like OneNote and moving some of those things like that. I used to have a general information needed folder that would have just like things that really didn't have a classification in. Maybe it was a contact for something, and I just moved those all to OneNote just to keep, that information and not lose it in 4 months because I was the queen of saving and searching. And now that I can't do that, I had to really think about what I wanted to save because in the past I had that safety net. So it's really made me focus on what I need to save and what I can delete and get rid of. So it's kind of sad because it was nice sometimes to reply and forward an email that you had sent a while ago, but now you can't do that. The other thing I like to do is use the add-ins. And I was telling Leona and Trinity about this. I used the Book Time with Me add-in recently. I was interviewing for an open position in our institution, and I had like 14 applicants I was going to interview. And I set aside time on my calendar. I used this Book Time with Me. I sent them the link and they booked it. It went straight to their calendar, straight to my calendar. It was really nice. I could say how long I wanted the meeting to be. I could say how much buffer time I needed. I said how far in advance they could book. So, I could put like they had to book it 1 day in advance. And it was really nice because it avoided that back and forth, like, oh, I'll take noon. Oh, wait, somebody already took noon before you. So it was really nice that, use those different add-ins too.
You can also utilize that add-in in your like management system. So like for new innovations, like on your session manager, when you're doing quarterly advisor meetings or semi-annual, you can go ahead and put a buffer time in there. Like every, quarter, it's going to be on a Tuesday from noon to 1. You can go ahead and set those things up. It doesn't necessarily mean that your PD or your faculty members have to use that exact date, but at least it's going to be a buffer on their calendars for something that's upcoming as well.
All right. Anybody else have great ideas and
Yeah.
things they do? Or questions, fun ideas.
I think the problem sometimes is that we don't know what we don't know. And so sometimes we don't even know the options that we have available to make our lives easier, And so sometimes it's like we don't know how to ask the question to be able to utilize a function that we don't know that we may have. So,
The other
And
thing too, I understand this is also often like institution dependent. There are certain things that Outlooks will do at other institutions that ours, they just don't
mhm,
have that for us. And so we just have to work around it. So,
right.
but it never hurts to ask because there was one product I thought we didn't have one of the licenses to. It turns out we did, and they were able to add it for me. So just something to keep in mind.
yep.
Mhm.
Yep. I'd also say if you don't, I am all about YouTube or LinkedIn Learning and finding the how-to videos and pausing and doing and pausing and doing.
Mhm.
So if you have access to LinkedIn Learning, they have a whole bunch of stuff on Microsoft Office if you use Office, which I think most people have gone to.
Mhm.
Um, find how to set up templates, find how to set up, delay deliveries, find how to do voting, find how to find time with me. That's another add-in you can do, find time with people. Watch those videos and walk through those tutorials because it does, like I said, I'll pause, do kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
Another thing that's helpful, at least for me, is that I think it's also important to like not worry if whatever system you use is like the right system, because the right system is the one that works for you to get your
For
job done.
you.
And it's just pick one. And if it works for you, it's fine. Like for example, Leona's folder system, which is gorgeous, gives me a panic attack when I see it. Like obviously it works super well for her, and I absolutely love that. If I had that many folders, I would never find anything because my brain doesn't work that way. So just figure out what works for you and just stick with it. Because I think sometimes we get caught up in trying too many different things, and the next thing you know, we have 6 calendars and 3 different ways of doing things, which means we
Mhm.
don't have a way of doing things. So just figure out what works for you, and just having a system is better than having 3 systems that are all not working for you.
Right.
It's just not how you function. So
Yeah.
I completely agree. I mean, and when I first started, 4 years ago, I didn't know how to manage all the things that were coming at me. I mean, I would get things from, and then also our name and logos and things have changed like 3 times. And so I'm like, okay, we're UTHET, and then we're UT Tyler School of Medicine, then we're this, and then we're that, and then we're this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and then we're Ardent. And I'm like, so I had to really come up with some type of system that I could utilize that my brain could function in the ability to find things. Because if I just put it over there, and then as Melissa was saying as well, everything keeps getting shortened on the amount of time that the retention of emails being in our inbox. And so I finally was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And I do know that our archiving system does last forever. And so that's why at the beginning, like at the top of my email, it says archive. And so that archive goes into the online archive, and it's still always going to be there. Now I do have to go to a different folder function, but because I do have it so detail oriented and so itemized out, I'm able to find those things a little bit quickly. And because sometimes the search has failed me many, many times. And so that's why I had kind of opted to do the system that I did. But I will agree, it is pretty detailed, but that's just how my brain operates. And so you do what helps you for sure.
Oh, do you guys want to talk about the to-do? That's neat. Becky?
Huh? Yes, Microsoft To Do, super awesome. You can
Mm-hmm.
like type in remind Leona next Tuesday to call Mike about lunch. And it like puts it in your to-do list and sends it to Leona also.
Yeah.
It is like the coolest. And that chime when you click something that you've completed, it like releases some kind of dopamine in my brain. I don't know really what it is, but it like literally brings me just a teeny tiny like jolt of joy. It's like an espresso in the middle of the afternoon.
how I
I
feel when
love
I get to delete something. I totally get it.
Quite
Yes.
lovely. I absolutely love it. And you can just, go into your search usually and just type in to do or Microsoft apps, and you can find it there and download it. And it fully integrates into your email. And I mean, it's really lovely.
Also, like if you're someone that's kind of like me, where you're kind of like, I don't know what generation I am, but like I'm still in the generation where I grew up in well, I kind of like that like paper, but I also like the technology. I'm kind of like in the middle. Also, utilize your sticky notes for your laptop. I love the sticky note aspect of things as well. And I mean, although it's not the physical one, it still gives me like a little bit of, I don't know, happiness to be able to still have like that. And then you can color code them as well. And they're really, really great to like refer back to. And you can have many of them and it not just take over your screen because they do organize it. You know, if you close it out, it'll organize it and you can open them as needed. So that might be a function as well.
Lucy had a question. No?
Nope.
Okay. Anyone else have comments or ideas or questions?
Any great ideas we can also steal from you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like we don't know what we don't know.
I was trying to find my unmute. I was just saying, you guys, this is great information. I use a lot of the stuff, but some of the stuff I didn't know about. The book time with me and find time with me feature. I need to see if we can get that here, Leona.
Yeah, if you do like that booking with me, if you could get your PD to use it like for semi-annual evaluations and you just send that link to the residents and they book it, you know, you have a block of time, you could use it for that. It's just, it's amazing. Because I used to do it by, I would send out a sign up genius and then I would have to send the calendar invites.
Mhm.
Nope. Book time with me, calendar invites go out when they book it. Off you go.
So it's through
And you even get to
Outlook?
name what the title says. So it'll say, you know, so say if you're using it for semi-annual review, you could send it. So you could even just say PGY1 semi-annual review, and then it puts the person's name. And so when that's how the title of the meeting would be. So it's really neat.
And you find it through your Microsoft apps, like the add apps button?
Add in. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. And it's bookmarked on my, I've got it bookmarked and ready to go.
Tammy said, great info, ladies. I have an issue with two carrying on a conversation with 20 others when they could easily communicate between themselves. It causes so much email burnout. Email etiquette would be helpful for some.
That's when you reply all and say, I'm going to remove myself from this conversation. Kind of give them a nice hint. It sounds like the two of you have a handle on this. I'm going to remove myself from this conversation. That's a good one. And the other one I didn't say, I use, you know, automatic replies don't have to just be when you're on vacation. You know, how many of you use it when you're doing interviews? Because you know you're going to be pretty much offline, you know, checking emails. Use it for that, you know, use it.
Or
you know,
onboarding, like
onboarding, right?
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will be doing
Or
my
even
when you're just
evaluation.
Working on a project. Like I
Yeah.
will be working on a project all day on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yes.
Please know that I will get back to you as soon as possible, but I will not
Mhm.
be watching my email all day or something.
Yeah. I think a lot of us forget we can use it for other things, you know, not just vacation, although that's the best way to use it. But
Yeah, I've gotten a lot better about that because I just don't want, because I generally tend to be very responsive and I don't want someone to think like, oh, well, she didn't respond to me in 2 hours like she usually does. So like, especially on interview days, I've been gotten a lot better about using it. So it's like nothing is getting done that day until the next day. So if it's urgent, please text me because otherwise I won't see your message.
and I do think, you know, like Leona said, used other means as well. And I think if you're very upfront with your residents and your faculty from the beginning of what constitutes an email, what's a text, that's very important. So like the residents knew I did not take vacations by text, period. It wasn't by text. It wasn't by Teams. It had to be an email, just so that I could find a way to keep track of it. So think about, you know, what, you know, when you do your expectations at the beginning of the academic year, say, this can be a text, you know, this can be, you know, what, blah, blah, you know, kind of set that expectation from the beginning. Just because I had a resident who was Saturday night at 9 o'clock texting for his vacation. And I'm like, absolutely not answering that. The other fun thing I had of a friend who would do, she worked a lot in the evenings. She was on the road a lot during the day. And so she would email people in the evenings, but she always put on there, I recognize that this is after hours. Please do not feel obligated to respond, which I always thought was very nice too. So there's something, if you send something during off hours, to add like a little tag like that.
Yeah, I think another thing too, and this will just depend because I know everyone's roles in GME are a little different, but a big part of what I have to do in my role as a program manager is keeping repositories for residents in difficulty or anything that might potentially legally have a thing later on. And so not being afraid to make sure people understand, like, I need you to send this to me in writing via email. I appreciate the text, but I need you to send me an official communication of this because honestly, I don't have time to screenshot things and send them to myself. I just don't. So I think, like you said, just not being afraid to set expectations. Like, I can't have you talk about this with me in the hallway. I need you to write it down. Otherwise, it didn't happen. And so just making it really clear how they should communicate. I was like, I understand you hate sending emails, but like, I need this in the official format so that if it ever became an issue, like I could prove that it was done. So.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Ideas, questions, comments?
Thanks for coming today, everyone.
I'm going to put we're cutting it easy on you today. So this is part of the new coordinator series where it's not really a quiz because this was more informative than, knowledge based, I guess. But if you could complete this quiz, it will go toward our new coordinator series, things that we're tracking. And let me throw that up here. Let's see. Well, of course, as I'm trying to do it, I'm doing it. What is this doing? Hold on. Just share that screen. If you won't mind doing that, I'd appreciate it.
I don't think it's come up yet, Melissa,
Not,
for some reason. Not on mine anyway. Maybe
why is
everybody
it
else
doing
is.
it? Okay. Because I have to hit the share button.
That's the important part.
That's the important part.
Thank you all so much for coming.
Thanks for coming. Hopefully you found it helpful.
Right.
You did.
It was awesome. You guys did a great job.
And if you have any ideas, yourself, pass them along.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.